How's it going, guys? It's Chris again, and I'm back with my fourth part of my conference tournament prediction series. This is a follow-up video to the last part, which was the mid-major conferences that we're doing in these two-part series. If you haven't checked that one out yet, feel free to do so, as well as checking out the other two parts that I have on this channel. I would like to issue a correction in the closing remarks of my last video. Murray State is the team I meant to say instead of Bryant. Bryant has not played their conference title game yet, and I am very much sorry that I had mentioned that team. And if they end up losing, I will take full responsibility for it. That was completely my fault. That was a complete flub, and I apologize profusely. So I'm going to say it one more time. Congratulations to Murray State, Longwood, and Loyola Chicago for making it to the NCAA tournament. And Bryant, best of luck in your conference title game. Again, I've mentioned at the offset that this is the follow-up video to the remaining mid-major tournaments that I have not covered yet. And again, I will remind you that the Conference USA tournament I will not be doing a review on or a prediction on, only because my team is in that tournament, and I'm very superstitious when it comes to talking about a tournament where I'm in, or my team is in the running. So I am not going to jeopardize anything on that tournament, so I will not be doing a prediction on that. I will be leaving that aside for now. So we're going to get into these remaining mid-major conferences, starting with the MEAC. We're going to have Norfolk State and Delaware State at the beginning of the tournament. I've got Norfolk State taking care of business fairly easily. Delaware State has not won a single conference game. I don't think they might have won one, but I'm not sure. I think they did win one. Now that I think about it, I think they did win one. But anyway, Norfolk State will take care of business. Morgan State versus South Carolina State. I've got Morgan State going through here. Howard and Coppin State. Coppin State has beaten them both times, but I have a feeling Howard will move on in this tournament. And then NC Central versus Maryland Eastern Shore. I've got NC Central getting through to the semis. Now, Norfolk State and Morgan State. I've got Norfolk State taking care of business fairly easily again. Howard and North Carolina Central. I've got Howard. And then in the championship game, I've got Norfolk State being your representative from the MEAC to move on to the NCAA tournament. Now moving on to the MAC. This is another one of those conferences, as I had mentioned with the American in the previous video, that I feel like any team in this tournament could beat any other team in this tournament. I would not be shocked if a Buffalo or a Ohio or one of these other seeds other than Toledo ends up winning this conference tournament. I would not be shocked in the slightest. So I'm going to going off of that, I'm going to take Toledo to move on to the semis. I've got Akron and Buffalo in the 4-5. I've got Buffalo pulling the quote-unquote upset. It's a 4-5 matchup, so really it's a coin flip most of the time. Kent State and Miami, Ohio. I've got Kent State getting through. And then Ohio and Ball State, I've got Ohio. Now moving on to the semis, we got Toledo and Buffalo. I've got Toledo getting out here. I would not be shocked if Buffalo pulls the upset for whatever reason, but I'm going to stick with the one seed here. I'm going to go with Toledo. And then Kent State versus Ohio. Ohio has been susceptible to pretty bad losses, and I think that tendency could tend to bite them in the butt. So I think that's going to be what's going to happen here. I've got Kent State getting out to go on to the title game to face off with Toledo, and I've got Kent State taking the MAC tournament championship and being the MAC representative in the NCAA tournament. Moving on to the Mountain West, I don't really have any upsets here. I'm just going to be straight up with you. The only one I really have here is New Mexico. I've got New Mexico taking care of Nevada. Utah State and Air Force, I've got Utah State. Fresno State and San Jose State. San Jose State is not very good this year. I've got Fresno State. Boise State versus New Mexico. Boise State will wipe the floor with the New Mexico squad. Wyoming and UNLV, I've got Wyoming, though I would not be shocked if UNLV wins that game. Colorado State and Utah State, I've got Colorado State. San Diego State and Fresno State. I have got San Diego State. So San Diego State, Colorado State, Boise State, and Wyoming. The top 4 seeds will make it to the semifinals according to my bracket, where Boise State in the semis will beat Wyoming. I've got Boise State moving on. Colorado State and San Diego State. Okay, I did lie. This is a technical upset. I've got San Diego State beating Colorado State here, as well as beating Boise State in the conference championship game, and moving on to become the Mountain West tournament champions. Again, that's San Diego State over Boise State. Now we've got the Southland Conference. We've got Houston Baptist, who had a wild game against McNeese. If you guys did not see that game, it went into 4 overtimes. At the end of the 3rd overtime, somebody hit a 3-pointer, I do believe, to take a 1-point lead, but then after the play was over, one of their players stormed the court, or a fan stormed the court. I think it was one of their players that was on the bench. He stormed the court, and they got called for a technical and gave him a single technical free throw, and they made it, and then moved on to the 4th overtime where Houston Baptist won. It was a wild game. It was like 149 to 144, I think, was the ending score. 9 or 10 players fouled out in that game. It was ridiculous. So, speaking of Houston Baptist, I've got Houston Baptist and Incarnate Word in the 5-8 matchup. I've got Houston Baptist moving on to face A&M Corpus Christi, Northwestern State, and McNeese. I've got McNeese getting through that 6-7 matchup to face off against New Orleans. A&M Corpus Christi and Houston Baptist. I've got Houston Baptist getting the upset here and moving on to face Nicholls State. I've got New Orleans beating McNeese in their matchup to go on and face Southeastern Louisiana. Then in the semis, I've got Nicholls State beating Houston Baptist to move on to the championship game to face off against New Orleans, who will beat Southeastern Louisiana according to my prediction. And I will take Nicholls State to be your Southland Conference tournament representatives for the NCAA tournament. Moving on to the SWAC, I've got Alcorn State and Prairie View. I've got Alcorn State here. Florida A&M and Alabama A&M. I've got Alabama A&M getting through. I've got Texas Southern going through against Jackson State. And Southern and Grambling, I will take Southern. Now moving on to the semifinals, I've got Alcorn State and Alabama A&M. Alcorn State should win that game. Texas Southern and Southern, I've got Texas Southern beating them. Now moving on to the championship game, the 1 and the 2 seed, Texas Southern, it seems like they're always in the tournament just about every year. I don't think there's been very many times where I can recall that Texas Southern wasn't the representative that came out of this conference. So I'm going to take Texas Southern to upset, quote-unquote upset, Alcorn State and move on as your SWAC tournament champion and representative for the NCAA tournament. Now moving on to the WAC. This one's going to be, well, wacky, for a better term. I have a feeling there could be many upsets here. I have a feeling that any team could win this that's in the top 6. I think Abilene Christian even has a chance, even if they are the 6th seed. I think they have a shot. They could do this. So let's go on ahead and go through it. I've got California Baptist beating UT Rio Grande and Utah Valley and Chicago State. I've got Utah Valley. So California Baptist will play Sam Houston State, where I have Sam Houston State coming out to face Grand Canyon. Abilene Christian will play that Utah Valley team. Now I've got Abilene Christian getting through. Now I said there were going to be some upsets. Did I say that I predicted those upsets? No. Grand Canyon and Sam Houston State, I've got Grand Canyon moving on. Seattle and Abilene Christian. This is the one I think will be the upset game out of both of these these matchups that are lined up with each other. I have a feeling Abilene Christian could win this game. I would not be shocked. But I'm going to take Seattle here to move on to face off against New Mexico State. So Stephen F. Austin versus Grand Canyon, New Mexico State versus Seattle. I'm going to take Stephen F. Austin in the first semifinal and New Mexico State in the second semifinal. That'll set them up in the championship game. And I have got Stephen F. Austin coming out and winning the WAC tournament and being the NCAA tournament representative for the WAC conference. All right, that will conclude all of the mid-major conferences. As I said before, we will be missing the Conference USA tournament only because my former university is in this tournament and I am not jeopardizing anything. I'm not putting any bad juju on the team. I'm not putting any bad juju on the tournament in general. I'm going to keep that one as far away from me as possible. So again, thanks again for checking in. I appreciate y'all watching these videos that I've put out. I just had the idea on a whim. Like I said before, I will be putting out another video shortly after I compile all of the Power 6 conference tournament brackets, and I will put out a video regarding those in a short amount of time. Again, I do appreciate y'all checking all the videos out. If you haven't checked out the 3-4 other parts that came before this one, feel free to check those out, see how I'm doing. I would say I'm doing a pretty good job as of right now. I don't think I've gotten a single one where I haven't gotten at least one of the representatives in the conference tournament final right. So I might not have won all of them. I've got, let's see, Loyola Chicago I had right and Murray State I had right, but I didn't have Longwood. I had Winthrop in that tournament, taking the tournament, sorry. So I'm not 100%, sadly, but who's going to be? It's predictions. So like I said before, I will be back with the Power 6 conferences here momentarily. Feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to comment about who you think will win in each of the conferences I had mentioned, or any of the conferences that have not finished just yet or in their conference final or even the semifinal. Feel free to comment down below, and I will see y'all in the next one.